and to residents of Grimsby who may be watching in this evening. This is a call to order the Wednesday, March 30th meeting of the Green Committee. And my name is Bruce McKenzie. I'm Vice Chair of the committee, and I'll be standing in for our chair, Carl Johnson. He's sent in his regrets, as has member Councillor Bothwell and Sarah Sweeney. Won't be with us this evening. And just as a matter of housekeeping, Olivia, are you with us at this time? Okay. Olivia may also be unable to be with us. And first order of business is disclosure of pecuniary interest or conflict. Is there any? Seeing none, thank you. I'd like approval of the agenda for this evening, and I'll call on can I have a mover for tonight's agenda? Thank you, Ryan Day. And one second here, and second by Haley. Thank you very much. Just 1 second here. I have to just sort out one or two things. This is fine. Okay. Our next item on the agenda is a presentation by the Grimsby Rotary Club on the Watershed cleanup event. And we are quite fortunate tonight to have Liz Fisk, resident of Grimsby, executive member with the Grimsby Rotary Club. Liz, the floor is yours. Liz is going to share her screen with us.
Thank you very much, Vice Chair Bruce McKenzie. Can everyone see the PowerPoint?
I can.
Yes.
Excellent.
Yes.
Thank you very much. It's a great pleasure to be able to share with you today a fair bit, if you will, about our Rotary Club initiative, the Great Lakes Watershed Cleanup. Let me just move this along for us here. What I'll be sharing with you today is a bit about Rotary's commitment to the environment. I'll tell you a little bit about what the Watershed Cleanup is, the preparations that have been in place, how we hope to partner with the Green Committee as well as the town of Grimsby. And hopefully you'll find that a lot of this dovetails wonderfully into the various initiatives, hopes and aspirations and outcomes of your committee. Let me start by just giving you a bit of a background to Rotary's commitment to the environment. And I certainly know that many of you are quite familiar with Rotary. We've been in Grimsby for 45 years. Rotary has what it calls 7 pillars around which it focuses its community service work. The newest and most recent one of those pillars is actually the environment. And what we intend on doing through that is supporting our common legacy, which is the environment. We do that by tackling environmental issues. And the way that Rotary does that is it comes up with projects that it can encourage the community to be part of and perform itself. It uses the connections of its Rotary members to change policy or to work with those who are attempting to change policy to support environmental well-being and agendas. And we also plan for the future. What is the Great Lakes Watershed Cleanup? Well, actually, it was an initiative that was started by the governor of our district, our Rotary District 7090, which is a bi-national district which includes parts of upstate New York and southwestern Ontario. And this gentleman named Frank Adamson is very environmentally conscious about, as well as focused on a number of things. Many of you who are aware of the Niagara Games will probably know about Frank's participation in that as well. And this started out as an initiative where those of us in our district would clean up the watersheds, the waterways in our general area in our district. That grew very quickly over a number of months to include all 5 Great Lakes, focusing on the streams and waterways that feed those Great Lakes. As you all know, everything ultimately does end up in the Great Lakes. A little bit of stats about why this is so very important. 20% of the world's fresh water is actually housed within our 5 Great Lakes. It is bordered by 8 American states and 2 Canadian provinces, and it has 15,000 some odd kilometers of shoreline, the largest in the world. So what are the objectives of the Great Lakes watershed cleanup? Improving the aesthetics of the Great Lakes by removing garbage, reducing all of the plastic contaminants and litter that is included in the lakes currently or flows into the lakes, to remove waste that can harm the lives of wildlife and household pets. Another objective is to encourage as many citizens and public participation in environmental projects and doing the best that we can with a larger group of partners to help save and mitigate the negative effects on our Great Lakes and the environment. We also include an education component around the effects of littering. We also support and educate around the importance of recycling. And why do we do all of this? Well, ultimately, I think it's for a reason that's fairly similar to yours, and that's to instill a sense of stewardship, not only at the individual level, but at the corporate level, at the municipal level, and at all levels where stewardship of the waterways and the Great Lakes is important. The other objective of the cleanup is also to report on the metrics. It's nice to have a project, but if you don't have outcomes, if you don't aspire to something and you can't prove what you did and the benefit of what you did, then, well, things can be better if you do, in fact, have those metrics. When is this cleanup happening? Well, the date that's been chosen is Saturday, April the 23rd of this year. The Earth Day is always April the 22nd, so we went with the Saturday. And this is sort of the large we, that it includes all of these 8 states and 2 provinces. This was the closest date. The theme for this year is investing in our planet. And what we are doing is the registration to be part of this effort is going to go community-wide on February the 1st of, on April the 1st of this year. Just to tell you who's participating in this locally. So, and let me just step back a moment and say we did 90% of the planning last year. And then unfortunately, due to COVID, had to put all of our plans on hold. We had a number of meetings, and some of you who are on the call today, I thank you very much for being part of those committee meetings last year and part of the planning that went into what would have been the 2021 Great Lakes cleanup, but now we're doing it in 2022. 3 Rotary clubs in the West Niagara area. There's one in Lincoln, which meets in Beamsville when they meet in person, and there's 2 Rotary clubs in Grimsby, and the Rotary Club of Grimsby, which I am a member of, is the active club taking the leadership role around this in West Niagara. Obviously, we're intent on bringing together communities and volunteers to clean up the waterways, streams, and rivers in our area. This will include Grimsby, Lincoln, and West Lincoln. what our Rotary clubs decided to do is to band together. It's a similar project. We have a website, which I'll show you the link to a little bit later on. But we felt that there was a lot of value in cross synergies because we're so close from a geographic perspective. But what we're going to be focusing on here today with you is the partnerships and the strength in our Grimsby community. Some of the partners who came on board last year were the Niagara Region, the Niagara Peninsula Conservation Authority, the Hamilton Conservation Authority, and a whole list of other environmental and a few corporate partners as well who were supportive of this. And the intent, again, is to organize a cleanup focusing on our watershed in our area. That's a bit of the backstory. Before I move ahead, are there any questions or any comments at this point? Okay, I'm not seeing any. Someone can alert me if there are any. So we have been in discussions with Sarah and Olivia, and as we've been moving through the 2022 planning, and they've certainly mentioned to us that with what the Green Committee is focused on, that there's a good matchup here as well. So I'll just going to go through a few areas of potential partnership, and then certainly Olivia, if you want to jump in with some specifics or to elaborate on things, please feel free. One of the things that we've been doing with the town is we've been defining areas for cleanup. We've identified 15 key locations within the geographic environs of Grimsby, where there is significant litter and waste and items which are in fact ultimately polluting the Great Lakes. We understand that there's an opportunity for neighborhood areas as well. Those would be other areas that would be candidates for cleanups. And we're also looking at ways to develop corporate partnerships where businesses, be they retail, be they manufacturing, who have locations which are either depositories or generate items like those that we mentioned earlier, might want to participate in also cleaning up their areas in and around this initiative. We're looking for working cooperatively to encourage participation and volunteerism. I mentioned we have a website. We have a registration facility as well. We've got a Facebook page. At a larger scale, and this is sort of in our own particular area, something that we've worked on with the Lincoln Rotary Club as well, but we're hoping to work with the town as well, using your communication channels to address all of the potential volunteers, be they students, be they environmental activists, be they neighborhood individuals who are interested in participating in the cleanup. We want to maximize the cleanup's impact. We feel we can do that by flagging areas for town pickup. There's a lot out there that we wouldn't necessarily want the general volunteer to be picking up. I'm thinking tires or potentially sharps or other either large or dangerous items. What we're hoping to do is organize a flagging methodology with the town where the individuals who are walking these areas can flag for town staff that this is something to be picked up later, where potentially they might not normally locate it themselves. We're hoping to ensure that all items that are collected are properly disposed of. All volunteers will be going out with 2 bags of garbage and recycling, and we have set up 4, or will be setting up 4 central areas, 3 here below the escarpment, 1 above the escarpment, where we will hope that people will come to pick up their supplies and the volunteer recognition items I'll speak to later on. And they will know where everybody's going, because safety is also a very important part of this. We need to know where folks are going. We have a lot of information on, and easy to read, I should say, information on what to pick up, what not to pick up, what goes into each of all those bags. There's some very interesting things on what people might choose to take with them if they're going into more sort of hazardous areas, if you will, as opposed to doing sort of a street cleanup or something of that nature. We consider hydration to be really important as well. Obviously, as you yourselves know, anytime that you have volunteers, it's extremely important that we recognize their contributions, because it's the greater whole that really makes things happen. We're looking at a sticker badge. We're going to have water filling stations. We're working with some community organizations for some gift certificates. There'll be a raffle for some t-shirts for participants. And I'll leave it with Olivia, but we've been talking about an opportunity to grow the environment in the future as well. So that's how we might be appreciating things. Let me move on here. So metrics. Number of ways that we're going to be doing this, and this is still an area of some discussion, and possibly committee members and guests will have some suggestions on how we can flush out this particular area. Because we have a Facebook page and we've got a website, we're encouraging people to take pictures of themselves with all of their garbage. Just for anybody who might have a concern around that, if you're officially registered to be part of this, there'll be a waiver form for you to sign. We've got methodologies for weighing the bags as well, sort of a quick and dirty fish scales, and just basically hanging up the bag and saying X amount of garbage in this particular bag. The folks who do the cleanup around the neighborhood cleanups on Lake Huron, they've got these tick-off sheets where basically folks can identify what they've got in their bags, either their recycles or the kind of garbage, and later on, we can do some anecdotal reporting on some of the different weird and wonderful things that have been picked up. So there's that opportunity. We'll be recording all of this not only on our website. I mean, we'll be working cooperatively with the town to report on all of that, but it'll be going up the big Rotary chains so that internationally we can tell the world what was picked up in and around the Great Lakes. There's the link to the website for the West Niagara Great Lakes cleanup. We hope that this is a sustainable program, and we would like to make this a yearly event, and we're hoping we can work with you to put that infrastructure in place so this can happen year in and year out. And we are really looking to partner with the Green Committee and the town on how, as a club, we can invest in the future of our town from an environmental perspective and grow green. So I've talked fairly quickly, given you a bit of a synopsis there. Here's just a slide telling you some of the opportunities to support the cleanup now and in the future. We're hoping that some of you might want to take a leadership role as a team captain. You may have, I know that some of you are dedicated to certain areas of the town, either because of other organizations you belong to or just because that means a lot to you. We're hoping you can take a leadership role in those particular areas. We'd love to co-brand this year with the town on the cleanup because we do appreciate it's a centenary year. And, well, it's just the kind of thing we do for Rotary. And thank you very much for this opportunity to tell you about the project and any thoughts, ideas, and questions.
Liz, thank you very much for bringing this project, the information to it, and your enthusiasm to our committee this evening. And the floor is open for any questions or thoughts as Liz is with us, so we can get it from the source if there are any questions. Okay, Liz, I have just one, and you may have already covered it. For people who wish to register, registering ahead of time is available through Facebook, and what else?
It's actually available through a link that will be on Facebook, but it is through a very robust registration system that Rotary has and owns. So in the system, we'll be identifying areas where people can say, this is where I want to do cleanup. This is, I'm available, here's my name. They'll also be able to tell us what areas, if they're not listed already, they'd like to take a leadership role to do it on. So it's actually a web-based system,
Okay.
but the links will be on our website, hopefully through any of the town's communications, and also on our Facebook.
And I think you mentioned that that'll be coming out on April 1st, did you?
That's right. We intend
Okay.
on opening that up the evening of April 1st.
Well, best of success with that. And you mentioned about using garbage bags. Is there a central pickup spot and drop-off spot?
Yes, those, we're still quantifying exactly what those will be, but there'll be 3 sort of below the escarpment, 1 above the escarpment.
Right.
It'll be set up with the town, and that's where people can come to get their supplies, and that's where they can drop it off.
All right. Well, we look for those details on April 1st.
That's right.
Great. And any other questions from the floor? All right. Well, Liz,
Yeah, Bruce, I have just
oh,
one.
Councillor
Sorry.
Sharp.
Yeah, it's Dave Sharp here. Hi, Liz.
Hi, Dave.
Thanks for your presentation, and I know you're familiar. We were kind of involved last year with a subgroup. We call ourselves the Friends of the 40, and we've always done some creek cleanups, and we did one last year, even when this was canceled. But so we were happy to participate in this watershed cleanup, and we already have some volunteers that are regular volunteers, and we would happily take any volunteers that you can drum up to come and help us help you.
I was hoping you'd be sharing exactly that sentiment with us today, Councillor Sharp. So I'm glad to hear that, and I'll follow up with you offline on the specifics around the 40 Creek part of the cleanup for sure.
Yeah, so last year we kind of divided it into 4 sections, and we were going to split them up. Like one was like some milking things to the pool. It's more accessible. Another was by the trail behind Remax, and then the one area that was difficult to remember is it goes under the highway bridges.
Yeah.
It's a little less accessible. You need people who are a little more mobile and can climb over the rocks and under the whatever to get to where they got to go.
Exactly.
Thank you, Councillor Sharp. Anybody else here? Liz, thanks again for being with us this evening. Wish you and the Rotary Club and all your participants the best of success. Get well soon, and thank you very much for your time.
Thanks very much, Chair Mackenzie, and good evening, everyone.
Okay. Before I move on to the next item, I'm going to ask for a motion to receive the presentation from the Grimsby Rotary Club. Could I have a mover, please? Aaron, was that your hand up, or are you adjusting the camera?
I was just trying to turn it on so you guys could see my pretty face, but I can definitely raise my hand.
All right, so we have Aaron, and welcome, Aaron. Glad you're with us this evening. And Councillor Bothwell, Sharp for the seconder. All in favor? That's approved. Very good, thank you. And their next item is a presentation by Stephen Hargrave from the Grimsby Garden Club. He's going to be talking to us about the club events, initiatives, and collaboration opportunities with the Green Committee. Stephen, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Bruce. And I'm just wondering if I do have a small PowerPoint presentation. I'm just wondering if you can see it.
Not yet. Maria or Peter, is Stephen a co-host, or can you make him a co-host so we can bring up his screen? The answer is, I know you're working on it.
Maria, are you able to make Stephen a co-host? I don't think I have that ability.
Okay.
All done.
Okay.
So Stephen, if you hit,
Yes, okay. And I've got that, and I'm going to put that there and share. Now, can you see this?
Yes, we
perfect, yes,
can.
you see.
Oh, delightful. Thank you very much. So, well, good evening. I'd like to thank the Green Committee for giving me and the Grimsby Garden Club the opportunity to address you this evening. I'd also like to thank Olivia Fraser of Parks, Recreation and Culture for her much appreciated assistance with this presentation. To begin, since 1964, the membership of the Grimsby Garden Club, currently over 100 plus strong, have volunteered their time and horticultural expertise to the beautification of Grimsby. We strive to promote and encourage and celebrate all aspects of gardening through a number of programs designed to enhance our community's beauty and the appreciation and understanding of nature. While some of our endeavors focus on the accomplishments of the individual gardener, we also participate in other broader-based programs, such as the downtown hanging baskets and planters and the design and maintenance of the Elm Street garden beds. Through the club speaker series, we provide a monthly entertaining forum for highlighting important horticultural trends and issues and their effects on the individual gardener and the community at large. So for the Green Committee and the Garden Club, there are several opportunities for collaboration to promote education and awareness through the various initiatives and events. On April 22nd, the club will be holding a now annual Earth Day tree sale dedicated to the Carolinian tree species, followed by our annual plant sale on the June 3rd. And in July, there's the annual Trillium Awards program, which recognizes outstanding Grimsby gardens, as well as the Grimsby Garden Tour on Saturday, July 16th, highlighting 10 unique Grimsby gardens. And we'll finish with another tree sale on September 22nd, which is National Tree Day. These events and programs offer collaborative opportunities to raise awareness and support of desired community goals. The Earth Day tree sale, for example, is a wonderful venue to highlight the Carolinian Tree Initiative and the seedling program by offering planting instructions and registering where trees are being planted so that there's an ongoing database to assist in achieving the program aims. As an annual event, we can emphasize to the community the desirability of maintaining and enhancing our shared commitment to a vibrant green future. The other mentioned events offer equal opportunities for mutual support, specifically through advertisements on our websites, social media forums, and newspapers. Also, through the encouragement of volunteer participation to support these programs, we'll be able to engage the community and help generate a better understanding and appreciation of the benefits of a healthy natural environment. Another small example is the club's Door Knocker campaign. Through Garden Ontario, we acquired cards, which allows us to thank the homeowner for their beautiful garden. And on the reverse, it invites them to celebrate the Year of the Garden, the town's 100th anniversary, and the Grimsby Garden Tour. So when the club members stroll through town, they will be able to leave one of these when they see a beautiful garden and thank the gardener for their tireless efforts. And I have several hundred of them if you're interested and would like to participate. So our presentation of these numerous events throughout the year will allow for an enjoyable educational environment and allow the town and the garden club to connect with people and strengthen our shared commitment to a greener Grimsby. This leads me to several questions that I would like to ask the committee. Is the committee interested in creating planting instructions and educational materials for the tree and plant sales? Would you like to loop the seedling program into the tree sale? Is there an interest in increasing the scope of the centennial year tree mapping to include trees from the Earth Day tree sale in April and the National Tree Day sale in September? And would you be interested in volunteering for any of these events? So I'd like to thank the Green Committee for their time and consideration, and I truly appreciate the opportunity to address you this evening. Thanks very much.
I'd like to, sorry, I was just trying to find my mute button. Stephen, thank you very much for your presentation and your continuous enthusiasm for the programs of the Garden Club. And I hope you express our sincere thanks on behalf of the town and our feelings taking it back to your members. And now you asked some very important and pertinent questions. I'm going to ask the committee sort of for a show of hands as to whether we want to deal with this now because spring is coming, or do we need to study this and report back at our next meeting? But I think Stephen's here, and if we could sort of get first reactions from them. I'm going to ask, I don't know whether we don't need to share the screen, but Stephen, I will ask you if you could go back to your questions and just ask the first one.
Yeah, so that was the, if you're interested in creating planting instructions and educational material for the tree and plant sales. And that would give you the opportunity as people are coming in and picking up their trees, you'll be able to sit back and get the appropriate planting instructions, care for the trees, and perhaps register their where they're actually going to plant the trees and their properties. And it's an educational opportunity as well.
Okay. So before I open it up to the floor, I'm going to push that question right over to Olivia. Olivia, I'm so happy to see you with us tonight because you got a couple of critical roles this evening with us. Thanks for being here. So could you give a response to Stephen with his question? Because I think there's some overlap because I've heard some of this before from you. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, so one of the things that I'll be talking about later tonight is just kind of where we want to go with the vision for the seedling program and the planting materials and the instructions. So I also kind of have been working with Stephen and with Liz from the Rotary Club just to kind of see where the overlap is and see how we can kind of make all three groups work together specifically around the seedling program. So I'll talk to that a bit more, but in terms of helping with the planting materials, I'm not sure if that's something the committee wants to take on, maybe with the subcommittee and kind of write some instructions for the selected trees, which I believe are going to be all Carolinian focused.
Okay, I'm going to open it up to the floor on the question of whether we want to be involved or wish to be involved with writing the plant materials. There are some experts in the group, but also with Olivia's background, may have to rely on her. So folks, what's your choice here? Any feedback?
My only
Aaron.
thoughts, my only thoughts are that wherever instructions are coming out, like in terms of the planting of the trees, whether it's through the garden club or through us or through the town, for different projects, I would just suggest that they're consistent. So whether we work on it together or whether Olivia sort of spearheads it and sort of touches base with each group, that whatever we put out, just so that if a resident ends up with instructions from us for one project or instructions or something like that from the garden club, that they're consistent and there's no information that's conflicting. That would be my only suggestion, is just making sure that we stay on the same page and give the same sort of information out to residents, whether it's through us or through a different group over time. So that would be my only suggestion. Not necessarily that I want to or have the ability to contribute individually, because that's not my expertise, but that's a suggestion.
Your point is well taken. Anybody else? Councillor Sharp.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. So I've been talking a bit to some members of the community about this event and some of the members of the Green Committee. So I think one of the good things is,
Okay, Councillor,
first, I
let's
guess-
stop you for a second. Brett, are you leading up to whether we assist Olivia and Stephen with planting instructions?
no.
Okay, so hold on to your thought. I want to
Yeah, I will.
put this, stay on course here. Olivia, would it sound all right if I suggested that, and I think you already are, working with Stephen in terms of developing or communicating the planting instructions? Because I think when I was talking to Dina, correct me if I'm wrong, incorrect, Stephen, Dina's a member of the garden club, is that when, like on the July 16th garden tour day, when trees or seedlings are made available, that there were going to be instructions provided at that time. Is that correct, Stephen?
Well, there was at the beginning an idea of having some seedlings available during the actual day of the garden tour, but we thought that because the town is doing a seedling program, it would have been better for the town to concentrate on that. And we're just going to just provide the venue for the gardens themselves. So the initiative would be on the town in terms of the seedling program.
Yes. Well, that's good, because July 16th was going to be busy enough on its own, and July 16th is not necessarily the best time of the year to be handling seedlings because of the possible drier, hot weather. So, Olivia, back to you.
So, through the chair, I did have a question that is related to this. This seedlings that we're planting at the garden club, are they the same as the seedlings that we're planting at the town of Grimsby? Or
well,
are they different?
the idea had been, because it was because it was the year of the garden, and that the garden tour would expand, not just showing 10 idyllic gardens for the tour, that we would offer something in addition, seedlings, and as Bruce has quite rightly said, it's a very bad time to handle seedlings or plant them. So when Olivia said that there was the town was concerned or contemplating a seedling program, I thought the Earth Day tree sale would be the best venue for it, simply because everyone is there and they're focused on planting, spring planting.
So thank you. My question is it the same material that we're going to be writing for our own tree planting, or
It
can
would be
modified?
it would be a Carolinian tree, essentially a generic Carolinian tree.
Okay, I'm just going to grab onto this for a second and go back to Olivia. Olivia, with the different programs that are being discussed right now, I'm going to go back first of all to the planting instructions. Do you feel comfortable, because you may have already done some of this or contemplated this, and working with Stephen so that there's just sort of a one set of planting instructions made available?
Yeah, I can work through that. So I think with Stephen coming to the committee, we were just kind of gauging to see if there was some interest with the committee members to kind of help write those planting instructions, or even just do some reviews. And if we wanted to put the branding of the committee on those instructions, or maybe contact information if someone has questions.
Right. So I'm going to suggest that if you could work with Stephen and the garden club, and then report back to this committee as to whether you've been successful with coming up with a recipe that can be provided to the public. And my only suggestion is that if that is done, and you may have already contemplated this, is that could be on the website for whatever instructions or communications there are about the seedling program. Does that sound fair? Okay.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Stephen, your second question.
Yes, well, it was really just, would you like to loop the town seedling program with the April 22nd Earth Day tree sale, so that when on May 7th, when people pick up their trees from the tree sale, they'll have the opportunity, would they have the opportunity as well to pick up seedlings?
Yeah.
And that would be the idea. So we were already going to have, we already have the facilities booked so that people can, and the parking lot booked at the Peach King so that people can come pick up their trees, and there would be a venue for the town to be able to also hand out their seedlings.
Good. And I'm going to direct that right to Olivia again. Olivia, does that sound logistically possible or beneficial to your program?
Yes, I do think it sounds beneficial. So I guess it's the next item on the agenda, I have just a small presentation kind of providing a summary of what species were selected from the survey, and then the different opportunities for collaboration. So kind of targeting the tree sale as well as targeting the Rotary Club cleanup event.
Okay. So what I might suggest with that, committee members, is that after we've heard from Stephen about this aspect, and after we hear Olivia's presentation, that would be an excellent time for us to have any questions, because then we'll have seen both sides of the presentation or the story. And so, Stephen, was there a third question? I think you mentioned.
Yeah, well, this was just carrying on with your centennial tree mapping, and just whether or not you want to continue it and expand it to include any of the trees that are purchased by Grimsby residents at the Earth Day tree sale, and later on at the National Tree Day sale in September 22nd.
Yes, and thank you. I know we discussed it a while back about some, and I think there was a question about logistics and carrying on that data into the future. And Olivia, can you help refresh our memory? Did we have this kind of discussion?
Yes,
Where
we
did it
did.
lead?
So originally, when we were first discussing the seedling program, we were thinking of maybe doing the approach of having people sign up through a website online, and then if they were comfortable, they could leave their address for it to be further tracked. But if we're kind of shifting a bit more to doing partnering with the tree sale and the Rotary Club, then perhaps when they're signing up on the waiver and selecting if they're interested in a seedling, we can add a secondary box asking if they're comfortable with using their address and tracking that they have taken a seedling, and they're going to be providing update photos throughout the year.
Yes. All right. So it sounds, Stephen, that there is some connection here that can be made. And I apologize. I got a message on my computer saying my internet was unstable. Something like I frequently hear around the house. It has nothing to do with the internet. So I'll leave that as it is. It's something that the club and the town, I think, needs to review to see whether that's a feasible option for both, because it could involve quite a bit of work. All right, and was there a number 4, Steve?
Oh, this was just a generic invitation to all of you if you wish to participate in any of the programs that the Garden Club will be hosting this year.
Well, that's very kind of you, and I'm going to suggest that the members of the committee, if they don't have any specific questions at this time, could browse the Garden Club website.
Yes.
To see what those activities are again, and then if they were interested, that they could contact the club. And I am hoping that there may be an audience tonight listening in. There might be a couple of members of your club who are already immersed in this, but there might be some members of the general public that would feel welcome to contact the Grimsby Garden Club and review all of the great events that you've got coming up this year.
Delighted for their interest.
Oh, wonderful. And before we say thanks to Stephen from the floor, any questions or thoughts that you'd like to say? All right, Stephen, again, thank you very much for being with us and sharing your enthusiasm with us. You've, I think, are talking to the converted, because some of the initiatives that you've spoken about tonight may come with a little bit of different name, but the idea is the same as we've discussed many times around the table. And for some subjects, we're still trying to get a handle on our role. And so with your words, you've helped us coalesce our thinking, at least with mine. Okay, and you're welcome to stay with us, of course, because next up is Olivia. But before I provide Olivia ask Olivia for her presentation, I will be asking for a motion to receive the Grimsby Garden Club presentation. And could I see a hand for moving this? Haley, thank you very much. And the seconder, Henry, thank you. And all in favor? Great. All right. So that leads us to a presentation by Olivia with tree seedling program, and the floor is yours.
All right, sounds good. I'm just going to share my screen. So this is just a quick update. So as you guys are aware, we did the survey looking to choose the species for the seedling program. So this was the outcome of it. I forgot to include white pine on the survey, but Bruce brought it up, and I just think it's a great one to include in the seedling program. So the first one selected was the tulip tree, sycamore, butternut, bur oak, and then white pine. And then I just have some information below on what those species mean for the area. And then, so we've already kind of touched on this, but it's just looking at the opportunities we have with the seedling program. So it's been since the November meeting, since we've kind of talked about where the program is growing. And I just think with the time constraints, as well as the collaboration opportunities, I think it might be a great way to kind of reach the community by partnering with the two groups that presented today. So the first being the Rotary Club, as a thank you gift to some of the volunteers that help with the cleanup. I think it might be a good opportunity to provide them with a seedling for their work with the cleanup. Due to the time constraint with the cleanup being on April 23rd, I thought maybe it would be a good way to kind of get the committee out into the community, and they could attend some of the farmers markets and hand out the seedlings to the volunteers who choose to receive a seedling, as well as kind of help them through the planting instructions and kind of speak more to what the committee does and some of their goals. And then the second item was mentioned by Stephen, but partnering with the garden club and attending the tree sale, and then providing any of the seedlings to the participants who are interested. And then, like we discussed, kind of working on just kind of communicating with the residents who are receiving the trees. And then also going back to that mapping initiative. So with the consent of the participants who are receiving the seedling, just tracking it on a map. And then maybe if upon the success of the program, we can track it on a yearly basis, so we can kind of see the growth of where the seedlings are throughout the years. So with that, I just had a question. Is this kind of the route the committee is comfortable proceeding with? Or do we want to go back to the original idea of going through the form process? I think this might be a good option just because a lot of the members who are participating in those events are going to be the people. I think there'll be a lot of overlap with who are filling out the forms to receive a seedling, but I just wanted to open up the floor for any discussion on that.
All right. I with sharing Olivia's screen, I can't see everybody. So that if you would like to speak, just here we go. Back faces, wonderful. So the floor is open to answer Olivia's question. And Olivia, I'm just going to ask you to rephrase or just repeat that question so the members of the committee are clear as to what you may be looking for.
Yeah, so I'm just kind of looking for a yes or a no, I guess, if the committee is comfortable with proceeding with working with these groups in a collaboration effort for the seedling program. So instead of doing the online form that we originally discussed, we could partner with the groups and target those members who are attending the tree sale or the cleanup event.
All right, thanks very much. I think that's a pretty clear answer. Is there anybody who wishes to say no, that doesn't agree with partnering with the two clubs? Councillor Sharp,
I just have a question.
go ahead.
Would we be giving away the seedlings at these events, or would we be signing people up to get the seedlings at these events?
So the thought was for the Rotary Club, when they're signing up to volunteer, there would be a box there kind of explaining the program and if it's something they would want to be involved with. And maybe if we even get far enough with the planning, we can include the species that I shared earlier. So they can kind of select which one is appropriate for them. And then with the tree sale, we could do a similar thing. When they're purchasing the tree, they could select if they're interested in a seedling.
And when would we give them the seedlings?
So for the Rotary, just due to time, I don't think we'll be able to have the seedlings ready for the cleanup on April 23rd. So I thought maybe the committee could target a few different farmers markets and let the volunteers know that they can come and pick it up at these times.
Okay, and Olivia, tacking on to that, if we had a table at a farmer's market or at farmer market days, would we need members of the Green Committee to hand out these trees, or how would that happen?
Yes, ideally, a few members of the committee would do it. I know that this was kind of going to be one of the committee's initiatives for the year. So I think it'd be really great to kind of show face and talk more about the other things that they have going on.
Right. Do you think we'd be able to narrow it down to 1 or 2 days of the farmer's market? So that is what I'm going to ask of you, is that if you could if the committee agrees to this, if you could send out the 2 days that you select based on the fact that you'll be able to acquire the seedlings, and then the subsequent days of the farmers markets that you think would be best to hand those out, get that information to us, and then we can ask the committee members to sign up. I would think it would just take 1 or 2 per day to make that work. And I'm assuming that the logistics of getting the trees to the farmer market and that would all be covered by town staff. Correct?
Yes, that's correct. Based on how the decision with this during this meeting, I'll proceed with the ordering and I can get a better idea of the timeline following that.
Okay. Any other questions or thoughts, folks? Aaron.
So I just want to be clear on understanding how members of the public are able to register for a seedling. If we're no longer going to do like a pre-registration or online, so it would only be at the events that are in collaboration with the Rotary Club and the cleanup, the Rotary Club and the gardening club, or is there going to be other opportunities? Like if a member of the public came to the farmers market where we're giving them out, is there going to be opportunity for them to register for one right then and there, or is it only pre-registration through those collaborations? I'm just want to be clear on how someone gets a seedling.
So the idea, just based on the timing of this and getting, it would be to just target those 2 groups. But if there's a lot of uptake in the program, I'm sure there's ways we can explore it to include more seedlings in the order, or it's kind of up to the committee and their next steps and which way they would want to go with the program.
Okay, I think my concern is that if we have the seedlings available at a public event like the farmers market, there's going to be other people who see them available and are going to want access to them. So I don't know that limiting it to only the volunteers in those two groups is necessarily a good idea. I think it's a good idea to collaborate with them, but I think we have to have another avenue to allow a greater interest of those who are more interested in a broader, I guess, availability for the seedlings. But again, my opinion.
Okay, Councillor Sharp.
Yeah, thanks, Chair.
1 second.
How many?
Councillor Sharp. Aaron, you're going to get an answer. I just want to see whether Councillor Sharp's comment or question lines up with it. If not, we'll come right back to you. Councillor Sharp.
How many seedlings are we giving away?
So it depends. I think the budget was the $1,000. So I'll have to go back in my notes for the specific amount, but I think that was a few hundred.
Okay. All right. What I might suggest, and Olivia or Stephen, if you're still with us, might suggest is that Olivia, two things. One, yes, with the people who have registered or the volunteers from the Rotary and the Garden Club, you've got, that A group that you're going to be providing these tree seedlings to at a farmer's market day, prearranged, and we'll know how many of those trees are sort of obligated to go to those people. And so if you say have 300 trees and you have an obligation for 100, then you'll have 200 sitting there waiting for a stranger to come along and acquire them. Is that correct in general terms?
So we were kind of hoping to align the dates of the tree sale with the pickup of the seedlings for the volunteers.
Right.
But yeah, as I've mentioned, it's if the committee has other ideas, we're completely open to it. But we just thought, due to time, maybe it's a good model to start to follow, just to kind of get the ball moving a bit on the ordering.
Aaron.
Sorry. Follow-up question then. So again, sorry if these are questions that have been already answered, but so are we giving the seedlings out at the farmer's market or at the tree sale?
So two separate events. So with the Rotary Club, the event is the April 23rd. So I don't think that it's really plausible to have the seedlings there by then. So I was thinking like a pop-up event would be a good place where we could tell volunteers who participated in the Rotary to come and get the seedling, but that doesn't have to be the case. You could also have a day at maybe the Peach King Arena and just tell people that if you'd like to come to pick up your seedling, you can come between this window of time. But yeah, the farmer's market was just kind of a suggestion because I know a lot of people attend that. So
my concern with the farmer's market is if we're not going to open it to the public, it might not be a great message we're putting out there. That's like we're in a public space offering seedlings, but only to certain people. So I think if we're going to limit it to only the volunteers, which is fine if that's what we're going to do, if there's enough seedlings to match the amount of volunteers, if that's going to match, if there's about 300 volunteers and about 300 seedlings, then that's fine. But I think then we just have a private pickup event. Whereas if we're going to offer it to the public, like if we're going to do a public event, then in a public space, then we should be offering some to the public as well.
Okay, and that works absolutely, but I think maybe I'll look to the committee to kind of plan an appropriate date of when we can target for the seedling pickup. If we want to kind of merge that with the tree sale, with the Grimsby Garden Club, that's totally possible.
Do you guys know how many do you know how many volunteers roughly? Like, do you think it's going to match, or is it like Bruce suggested, like maybe 100 volunteers, but then there's 200 extra seedlings? Or do you anticipate that there's going to be a match of seedlings to volunteer ratio?
Yeah, so the Rotary Club, from my understanding, they're looking for about 100 volunteers. And then with the tree sale last year, I don't know if Stephen's still there, but I think they sold around 200 trees.
So is the seedling going to each person that buys a tree, or just the volunteers helping at the tree sale?
So when they're purchasing a tree, I think the idea was to have it on the purchase form, asking if they would like to participate in the seedling program. So if they check yes, then we can kind of account for that person getting a seedling with their tree when they pick it up.
So it's not a volunteer. It's if you purchase a tree, then you kind of get a seedling for free if you want it.
Yes, that's for the club. And then the Rotary is a separate initiative. So there's just the two different groups. But I think that there's a lot of alignment with the initiatives, and then a lot of people helping would probably be the same people who are interested in the seedling program.
Right. Right.
But yes, we're open to different ideas as well.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else?
Yeah, Chair. I just want to say, if we have 100 volunteers, at the Rotary, they might not all want a seedling. There might only be 50 or 60 or 40 people that say, hey, listen, I'd like to register to take one of these seedlings. And some of them maybe live in an apartment or a townhouse or somewhere where they can't plant these native trees. So we might not get like 100 trees given away. It's not necessarily like a volunteer appreciation. You have to separately register to take on a seedling and plant it. And we'll ask that they would care for it and plant it in a place where it can, mature and grow old and become part of our tree canopy. But so I don't know if we're necessarily giving them to all the volunteers. It's just that the volunteers become a pool of people who can register to participate in this tree seedling program. And I'm also wondering if we can just approve this tonight and then at the next meeting come back with some dates and some more fine details. Is that an appropriate way to go about this?
Well, I will answer your last question. I definitely want to have this approved and give direction to Olivia this evening because we've gone over a lot of these points and time is catching up with us. So that's going to happen. Next speaker, Henry.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. First of all, I agree with Aaron's comment about not giving them out at the farmers market. I think it sends a confusing message. I guess the only other kind of question or concern I have is if we're going to give them away to people that have purchased a tree, since we're only talking several hundred trees potentially, depending on what our budget is, I just think we're losing a bit of impact because people have already bought a tree. Now they're getting a second tree. I agree with the advocacy, the combined advocacy with the Garden Club and the Rotary Club. Totally agree with that. But maybe we take this separate and just offer it up as a unique program, but combined collaboration so that we're assured that if we have 300 trees, they're going to 300 people that want them. And if we have a waiting list, that's a good sign of next year. Maybe we ask for more money. I just don't want them going to people who are already buying a tree, because then there might be somebody that didn't want to buy a tree and maybe needed a tree for free, or I just caught that piece and I'm not so sure I'm on board with that.
All right, and thank you. You've lined up with Aaron. Aaron, your hand's up again.
Yeah, I agree. I thought of the same thing as Henry, is that economically, like we're saying, you only get a free seedling if you can afford to buy one first. That's not a great message to be sending out to the greater Grimsby community, because someone might see that form and say, well, I was going to buy one because I didn't know there was a free one, but I can't get a free one unless I buy one. So that's one thought. And then the second one is, I mean, if we decide to give them to the volunteers or give them the option to take one home, whether they want one or not, I mean, if we have some left over at that point, we could always hold a booth at a farmer's market and offer them up and just say, you can take one, come fill out the form right here on the spot. Here's what's still available to you. And then at that point, and then that way it is open to the public. So maybe we find out first from the volunteers who wants one by giving them the form. And then from there, once that's all spoken for, we then hold a public booth or whatever gathering and offer the rest to the general public. Again, just my final thoughts.
Thank you, Aaron. Olivia, where we've gone so far, are you because it's a little over the map. The one thing I think I heard fairly clear was sort of stay away from the farmer's market for distribution of trees that aren't for sale. And then there's also this Grimsby garden plant sale, which took place last year, where, if I remember correctly, the Grimsby garden, in conjunction with the town, bought plants or trees and sold trees. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, so we're planning to work with the garden club again on that tree sale, are we?
Yes.
Okay, so would it be fair to say that you have we arrange a pickup day for the volunteers that register to get a tree with the Rotary, from the Rotary Club? Does that make any sense? Olivia?
Oh, for me, yes, that makes sense to me.
Okay. I'm not suggesting that it couldn't be at the Grimsby Garden Club tree sale, because logistically that might be okay. Because if you bring your volunteer registration form or whatever, you come to that, and that way logistically you just have that sort of one day, or we just have that one day to. Does that sound logistically correct for you?
Yes, for me, absolutely. I think that maybe one of the things we're looking to the committee to do is be there for the pickup. But we are, obviously, we can help with providing the location. So if it's at the Peach King Arena, we can make sure that space is reserved. We can do it outside, or maybe if there's a room available, we can arrange for that.
Right. What I was sort of suggesting was whether this could take place with the, I'm going to back up for a second. Does the Grimsby Garden Club, for their tree sale, already have a location and time slated?
Yes, so it is in May for the tree sale. It is.
It's May 7th will be the pickup date.
Okay. So what, I'm going to go back a little bit. Just, I'm a little confused, and others might be, if not, just for my sake. Other than handing out trees to the volunteers, what would our role be at the Garden Club tree sale?
So just going back, there was expressed interest from both the Rotary Club and the Grimsby Garden Club about seedlings, just providing seedlings to their members, community members. So our thought was that there's these interested groups who have a large following. So this might be a great way to target community members who would be interested in receiving the seedlings. So this doesn't have to be the route that we go, but I just thought that maybe the alignment was there, and a lot of the interested members would be there.
Okay, well, I think we, correct me if I'm wrong, members of this committee, but I think we sort of have an agreement that aligning with the two clubs would work, and that if we piggyback with the Garden Club to assist them on that date for the distribution of the trees for the volunteers, that could be the pickup date. Is May 7th logistically work for you, Olivia, in collecting these seedlings or acquiring them and getting them to the Grimsby Garden Club? That's May 7th.
I will have to confirm, but I believe it is possible, yes.
Okay, well, let's keep our fingers crossed on that. If not, we'll have to come up with figure out how to pull another rabbit out of the hat. So so May 7th is our target date, and members of the committee, if you could put that date on your calendar, there may be an opportunity for you to for us to assist on that day, or certainly be there on that day. Does that work for you, Olivia?
Yes, I think my only question would be, depending on how many volunteers there are, there's the possibility of having the additional seedlings. So with those additional seedlings, is the goal to then go to maybe the farmer's market or a different event and have people sign up for them there.
Yes. Okay, so that's option B, would you say?
Yes, but just because I think with I'm trying to find my notes right now, how many seedlings approximately we could get with the budget amount.
Yeah.
But I have a feeling that with just the volunteers for the Rotary Club, there will be additional seedlings left over.
All right. Councillor Sharp.
Yeah, to the chair. Can I make a resolution giving direction to town staff to engage with the Rotary and the Garden Club to initiate this seedling registration, and then report back to us, and we can then decide what to do with any leftovers or finalize the dates at our next meeting.
I like the first, I have no problem, Councillor Sharp, first half of your resolution. But I think we have to provide Olivia with, because of timing, I think she's going to have to set out a schedule or options that she could inform us of as members of the committee, because we may not have a committee meeting in April, or it may not be soon enough so that those dates can be selected. And
Okay. I'm amenable to the word change to say inform us of the schedule and dates.
okay. Aaron, did I see your hand? Okay, so Dave's got suggested a motion. I'm going to take it as Councillor Sharp moving this motion. We have to tailor it a little bit. Aaron?
I was just going to offer a slight amendment to that, and so that Olivia has the direction moving forward. So let's plan for the distribution to volunteer. Olivia will go forward and work with the two groups to see what volunteers are interested and get a number from them. And then whatever that we'll decide, we'll plan on May 7th to distribute those seedlings to the volunteers in both groups, and then remaining seedlings, let's plan a day. Olivia, you pick the best day that you think will work for everybody to go to the farmer's market with the leftovers. Because I think we were planning on trying to have a booth at the farmer's market anyways, just to get our information out. So maybe we plan that day to have a booth regardless. And then if we have seedlings left over, that's what we do that day as well as part of our booth. So maybe that's the amendment to the resolution so that there's clear direction moving forward. Or my thoughts.
Yeah,
Thank
I'm
you,
happy with
Aaron.
that.
All right.
Do we have Peter on the line? Can he write that down for us?
Well, if you can, he's
Maria?
a miracle. Peter?
I can, Councillor Sharp, I can write that if you don't mind repeating the motion.
Okay, can you hold on to that just a
let Aaron
second?
repeat it. He was,
Yeah, I'm just going to ask you to hold on to those thoughts for a minute. Before I ask for, and I'm going to suggest that Aaron be the seconder for this motion. So the motion's on the floor. Before I open it up for discussion, I'm going to just ask a question of Olivia. Olivia, to me, when I look at this, there seems to be a bit of a question mark around the number of volunteers from the Rotary Club. My fear is that we won't know for a while about how many volunteers they're going to have. Has there been a discussion between you and Liz Fisk on this question?
Bruce, Liz's hand is up. Maybe she has some information for us about that.
Is Liz Fisk still with us?
She is.
Oh, there you are. Liz, I thought you had maybe retired for the night. Liz, can you give us some feedback?
Certainly. So our anticipation is, as Olivia said, for the 15 designated areas that I spoke to, that we will require roughly 100 volunteers. We are anticipating that people will self-select other areas that they wish to do, neighborhood areas, for cleanup. So it is possible we may have as many as 150 people registered specifically to volunteer on that day in this particular area. I believe it was Councillor Sharp who said, well, not everybody's going to want one. Some might be living in apartments, whatever. That is true. We were looking at this as an appreciation gift, but only an appreciation gift for someone who could take care of that tree and ensure its life. So that's how we were going to position it. And we had actually, in passing, made the offer that one of the community projects we'd like to be involved with going forward would be a tree planting. And that if there were opportunities for seedlings, Rotary does a lot of tree plantings throughout our district. So we would be very happy to participate, take a lead, work with the greening committee, whatever format it involves, to have individuals plant trees as
Okay,
well. So
Liz, thank you very much. That helps me understand the back and forth of the potential relationship here. So, and I do appreciate you hanging on with us to help steer us through this, and Stephen. So members of the committee, the floor is open. If there's any further questions or thoughts on this. Okay, so we have a motion. Aaron, help us with this. Try to keep it straightforward. To provide direction to staff to work with the Rotary Club and the Grimsby Garden Club for the distribution of tree seedlings as discussed. I'm going to leave it sort of general like that. Does that work for you, Olivia? Is that clear enough direction?
Yes.
Okay, thanks. So we have a motion on the floor. I think we're all aware of what the intention is. And all in favor? And Ryan, I think I saw your hand. Good. All right. And that was.
Sorry, to the chair. Do we have mover and seconder for that?
Yep. You're the mover and Aaron's the seconder.
Okay.
Some people were voluntold. Is that all right, Aaron?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, thanks very much. And I know we've been working on this for a long time. It's so helpful for Olivia, for you being with us here tonight. I hope we haven't left you a dog's breakfast, but I know that we're very grateful to have the Rotary and the Grimsby Garden Club to work hand in hand with this. This is our first, not our first time. I believe there was the partnership last year between the town and the Garden Club. So we're expanding on that, and we're including the Rotary Club with us. And let's keep our fingers crossed that it all works and we haven't given Olivia a headache. Okay, so moving on, Olivia, you're with us. Our next agenda item is mowers update. Olivia, do we need to move this item to when Sarah can be in attendance with us?
Yes, I think that would be best.
All right. I'm going to ask for a motion to defer this agenda item to a future meeting. Could I have a mover for that, please? Ryan, okay. And seconder? Anybody? Thank you, Haley. And I think for a deferral, we don't need to have a discussion, but we're all friendly around the table here. Anybody want to discuss this? We really don't have an option. Okay, all in favor? Thank you very much. Alrighty, and the next agenda item is NPCA, Niagara Peninsula Conservation Authority Restoration Program Update, 40 Mile Creek and Centennial Park. And Olivia, I'm going to ask you again, sorry to put you on the spot on this. Is there an update that you could provide to us?
Yes, but I'm just checking. I think we might have skipped over the Grimsby Green Awards.
Well, we certainly did. And so we're going to go right back to item 7. And thank you for that note. And so the Grimsby Green Awards, I have in my agenda Haley and Aaron to deliver information to us about that. Haley and Aaron, I hope I'm not putting you on the spot and that you're prepared to speak to this.
Yeah, so I put a brief summary together. Things have changed a little bit since we last talked about it in November, I guess. So I'll just share my screen if I can.
Yes.
So yeah, 3 of us met in February just to review everything and make some new timelines because nothing had moved. So we came up with a couple of changes just to simplify everything. The first thing was the change of name to the awards, basically to the Town of Grimsby's Green Awards, led by the Grimsby Green Advisory Committee. And the reason for the change was because we are an advisory committee, not a separate entity. So just to make it clear that it's the town that's giving the awards, but we are part of that. So the second thing that changed was to take away the categories. And again, just to simplify the whole process and to allow everybody or anyone to submit an application as long as it meets the 2 criteria, which are a project that has environmental benefit and having occurred in Grimsby or led by a Grimsby group. And then we'll use the categories as an example to show that it could be anyone from a business, community, youth, or even individual. And then depending on how many people submit, we can then separate them into categories from there. So then the submission process would just be an online form of them telling us what they've done, how it benefits Grimsby's environment directly, and focusing on the initiative rather than the business itself. Then the 3 of us, myself, Erin, and either Olivia or Sarah, if everyone agrees, can review the submissions and then bring those to the committee for any feedback and comments. And then we took away the prizes and the awards, and it would just be recognition as long as the submissions has met the criteria above. And then the recognition would be basically their story, shared on social media and or in the newspaper. Then we go to timelines. I basically took this from Olivia's summary that she had prepared from the meeting and just changed the dates because we missed last month's meeting. So hoping that the online form can be created within the next week or so, and then we can start promoting it straight away. Once we have developed the plan, we'll send it to the DIA. We can also send it to the garden committee and any other associations that may have some initiatives on the go. Also with Earth Day coming up, we thought it was a good idea to delay it for the submissions coming in so that anyone can use the Earth Day project as something that they can submit. So summary to committee in June, and then recognition awards end of July now. And that is everything. Oh, Bruce, I think you're muted.
Well, some people haven't complained about that, but thanks for letting me know. Appreciate that, Haley. That's clear and concise. I'd like to thank you and Aaron for your energies towards this, and Olivia and Sarah for working with you on this. So the floor is open to the to discuss this. Are there any comments or thoughts from committee members? Okay. This is good. Haley, I'm just going to throw one thing out for you. Considering that July is summertime, and you might not get the bang for the buck that you might be looking for and that your work deserves. Talking to Stephen earlier in the evening, he mentioned that September 22nd is National Tree Day. Just throwing that out there as a possible day or week to make the announcement, because people are back reading newspapers or whatever. But I just throw that out simply because a lot of people, organizers, avoid July and that because they miss part of their audience. But I'll shut up there and leave it to your thoughts.
I'm just wondering if we could even, well, I guess it depends on which submissions come in. I mean, somebody might even use some kind of tree planting event as their submission, in which case that would be a great time to announce it on that day. It doesn't have to all go out in one day. We could stagger the recognition depending on what it is. I know there's other days out there. I'm not sure what day Water Day is and things like that. Maybe we could think about that a bit more.
Well, what I want to suggest is that we have a motion to approve your criteria here, because that way we can get the ball rolling with the date of announcement of the winners to be determined. That gives you a little flexibility to look at, Water Day or some other event, and also discuss it with Olivia and Sarah. They may have something as well. And but I think and I had the opportunity of speaking to Sarah earlier. She definitely was hoping that we would leave this evening's meeting with the approval of your criteria. And I'm sorry that if I threw a monkey wrench into it by suggesting a date other than July. Like I say, I just want you to get the best bang for your buck. Councillor Sharp, I'm just going to refer to you for a second. In terms of the town and council meetings in July, do you have any preferences for when announcements like this? Because this is a good news thing. You want to look at July, or would you like something a little later, Councillor Sharp? What do you think council might like?
I'm happy with either. In July, we have only one meeting. In July and August, so normally we have 2 council meetings per month. July and August, we only have 1 meeting because a lot of the residents are on vacation.
Yeah.
And because a lot of our town staff is on vacation. So it's a little difficult to coordinate. And sometimes we cancel committees completely in the summer. So, but I'm always around. So I'm happy to attend at any time. And I just want to say thank you to Haley for the work I know that goes into this. You've done a great job, and it's a little extra than to sign up for these subcommittees. And so I appreciate you heading this, and I think you've done a great job.
Thanks, Councillor Sharp. So Haley and Aaron, would would you like to have in the, before we leave tonight, would you like to have the date of July, or would you like to have a to be determined date for the announcement?
I think to be determined would be good, just to give us a bit of flexibility, and we can have a think about what we can do. I'll look at some other dates. And
okay, and that I'm just going to ask the committee, could we leave it in Haley's and Aaron's hands to with conference with Sarah in terms of selecting that date, and then letting us know for information purposes what the date is later on, because they might decide in a week what a good date is.
Can I just add one thing? I think although there's going to probably be a specific date that we put out who is being recognized, it is going to be something that's put out over time, because we're not going to share every single person's story all on the same day. I think the idea is to share them over a period of time, so it won't necessarily be on one single date. Correct me if I'm wrong, Haley, but I think that was the plan.
yeah, that's the idea for the social media part of it. I guess depends if we decide to go with the newspaper in a similar format that the Civic Awards, for instance. I think with that, there's numerous awards appreciated on one page in the newspaper.
Okay.
Yeah, and then if I to answer your question, Aaron, may I put forth a suggestion that through social media, you've got a lot of flexibility in telling the individual stories one step at a time. But when it comes down to the newspapers, if they're going to carry your story, they're only going to carry it once.
Right.
And that's,
yeah.
as you said, with Civic Awards, the winners all have to be able to be announced at one time from a press release point of view. And then you can, in that, you can say in social media, the stories are going to come across in more details. Follow us on. Does that sound right?
Yep. Okay. I kind of forgot about the newspaper part. I don't read the newspaper.
But we see, we have the old, that's me, and the
You're not
new.
missing much.
Okay, so what I'd like to suggest then is that the committee adopt the criteria as presented by Haley and Aaron, the Green Committee, the Green Awards Subcommittee tonight. So can I have that? I'm going to suggest Haley as the mover and Aaron as the seconder. Is that all right? Any further discussion? Okay, all in favor? Good. Well, best of luck, ladies. Your work hasn't stopped. It's you now have, I think, a clear path to follow, and to echo Councillor Sharp's words, thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Next item agenda, Olivia, thank you for hanging around, is the item 9. Could you go ahead with that, please?
Sure. So I think since the last meeting in November, we were in the process of applying for the NPCA restoration grant. So we received the good news, and we've been approved for both of those grants. So the first one will be in Centennial Park. So we're targeting that one. We're still finalizing the date, but it'll either be the end of April or early May. So that will focus on doing some plantings along the creek. Nothing too disruptive to the kind of activities that go on in the park, such as tobogganing, but just providing some planting to support the creek and kind of reduce the amount of human interaction. But once I finalize the date, I'll be sure to send it out to everyone, as well as the information on if you'd like to be involved with the tree planting. That will be done through the MPCA. And then the second location was 40 Mile Creek. So that will be, we haven't finalized any of the plans for that, but that's most likely going to be taking place in the fall. And it'll be a similar initiative with tree planting in the area.
All right. So just to repeat what I believe you said is that you received grants from the Niagara Peninsula Conservation Authority Restoration Program for both projects. Well, congratulations, because I know there's a lot of competition for that funding. There's a limited pool. So that speaks well of how you presented those projects. Thank you, and pass that along, please, to the other staff that are involved and or committee members that may have been involved with that. I'm looking forward to seeing how all this work comes out. There are going to be two different ones. The 40 Creek one is a huge challenge to get that to come around, because it has different facets. So I look forward to seeing that get started. And so we have that. I'd like to have a motion to receive the information from Olivia. Could I have a mover and seconder, please? Okay, Haley and Henry is the seconder. All in favor? Okay, and I apologize, I didn't ask for any questions or thoughts. So I'm just going to go, the floor is still open on this if you have any questions of Olivia on this. All right. So the next item on the agenda is Main Street East Heritage Conservation District study. The opportunity is to have a representative from the Grimsby Green Committee. And Olivia, I have a question for you. Don't want to put mean to put you on the spot again, but do you know whether this is, how many meetings or what's involved? How many meetings might take place, or what's involved if a person is to step forward as a representative of the Green Committee?
I'm actually going to pass this over to Peter. I believe he has some more information on it.
Peter, we never see your face, but we know you're there.
Thanks, Bruce, and thanks, Olivia. Yes, Sarah had just forwarded over some information to me, and I believe this came from the planning department. So I'm just going to read it out. It just provides a little bit of background of what we're looking for.
Thank you.
So a heritage conservation district study for Main Street East is an important step in establishing the best way to recognize, maintain, and nurture Grimsby's distinctive quality and character. The Heritage Conservation District study is the first phase of two-phase process. The purpose of the study phase is to identify and evaluate heritage resources, including buildings, landscapes, and streetscapes in the study area in order to determine if the area holds cultural heritage value or interest as a cohesive district. Having said that, let me just pull up the district area just so you have an idea. Is everyone seeing that okay? Perfect. So the Heritage Conservation District Study Report will recommend whether the study area or parts of it should be considered by Council for designation as a Heritage Conservation District under Part 5 of the Ontario Heritage Act. Staff would like to extend an invitation to Grimsby Green Committee in hopes of having a stakeholder at the table that can provide insight into the integral green spaces within the Main Street corridor. Representatives don't have to reside in the study area or on Main Street, but they should be familiar with the area. Staff are anticipating probably 2 to 3 meetings. So to answer your question, Bruce. So in those 2 to 3 meetings, we're looking for feedback from this group on areas of significant or importance. And then if the consultant does conclude that the area does merit designation, then we would likely have them contribute to the district plan, which would come later in the process. Depending on membership after this term of council, some members may be adjusted to community stakeholder members rather than committee representatives. But we definitely would like to have them continue their membership on the working group if they are interested. So I guess to summarize, Chair, the planning group is looking, I believe it's just one representative from the committee. I'm sure they would take more if anyone's interested, but I believe we're just looking for one representative to engage in this stakeholder group to provide comments on the green spaces within this study area.
Yes. Thank you, Peter. So there's a couple of meetings, and there's sort of a unique and important contribution that a member of the Green Committee could make to this study because it puts your feet on the ground in terms of contributing to this important study that's taking place in the Heritage District. And I think it's good that we're welcome to select or present a representative, because it would have been easy for the Green Committee not to be considered in this project, but we have been considered for providing a contribution. So is there a person that I'm looking at tonight that may wish to put their hand up or step forward to contribute to this study? And just before you answer that, I had the privilege of working with the Grimsby Beach study as a representative of the Green and Active Committee, and I was very pleased with that opportunity. Got to understand better what was involved. I also met some wonderful people through that process as well. So, do I see a hand up? Going once. I know you don't want to put your hand up because somebody else might be wanting to do it, but we're getting to the point where I'm not seeing a flash of hands, and you're looking at the same screens as I am. Peter, I'm going to go back to you with a question. Do you have any idea when these meetings are involved, this study is taking place, so a person could look at their personal schedule and say, yeah, that'll fit or that won't fit?
Thank you. And through you, Chair, I did not get that information. I apologize. I was going to suggest, though, if there's somebody that might not be in attendance, maybe we can forward that information out to the rest of the committee members to see if there's any interest, and maybe we can just confirm even over email if anyone's interested. And if anyone here today wants to think about it and they change their mind and they want to reach out to staff and they're interested in participating, I'm sure that will work as well.
Okay, well, help me with my tally here, Peter. But I think the only member I see that's not with us tonight, correct me if I'm wrong, is Carl. Is there another member who is absent?
Yes, no, through you, Chair, I believe you're correct, other than Councillor Bothwell, but I believe the intention was to have a lay member.
I gathered that as well. So, and Carl's personal situation, which I'm not totally up to date with, and in fairness to Carl, what I'd like to suggest is that the minutes, I'll send a note to Carl saying that this opportunity is available, and to let me know as to whether he might be interested in partaking. And for more information for his benefit or for other committee members' benefits, Peter's given us just a glimpse tonight. I'm sure staff in the planning department would be able to provide anybody who might be interested with a little more information about this opportunity. So I'm going to leave it at that, that we will have a motion to put this out to all. I don't think we need a motion here because we're not appointing anybody or receiving anybody's name. But what I will do is, I say, I'll communicate with Carl, see if the opportunity is attractive to him. And if not, then I'll communicate with the rest of the lay members of this committee saying that the floor is still open, and see where we go from there. And could I just see a straw poll or show of hands that in the meantime, before our next meeting, if any member of this committee puts their hand up for working on this, is that they will be approved retroactively at our next meeting. How does that sound? Any objection to that if we find a volunteer? Okay, see heads nodding, no objections. All right, so we'll keep it free and easy. And I believe we've come to the end of our meeting tonight. I would like to thank you very much for allowing me to chair this evening, and thank you for your patience. But I think we accomplished quite a bit today, and we are certainly privileged to have the Rotary Club and the Garden Club attend with us. And thanks everybody for your contributions. This is good. Could I have a motion to adjourn, please? Everybody wants to stay. Henry, second by Aaron. All in approval? There is no discussion. Okay, folks, good night. And I don't know the date of the next meeting unless Olivia, you have it, or will we wait for word from Sarah?
I believe it's on the community calendar, but I think it'll be the last Wednesday of April.
Okay, well, let's put.
I believe it's April 27th. Sorry to interrupt you, Chair.
Oh, that's fine, Peter. Thank you for that date. April 27th. Please put that in your personal calendars. And we look forward to seeing you again. Happy spring. Okay. Good night, folks.
Good night.
Take care, everybody. Good job, Bruce.
Thanks, Henry.
Yeah, great work, Bruce. Thanks.
Recording stopped.